All right. Well, we could jump straight in.
Go for
Um,
it.
Perfect. So, yes, I would love to kind of split the interview into two and just see, talk obviously about Bonhoeffer, but then also about your career as a whole and how you felt about all the work that you've done. So we'll kind of see as we go through each question how we all each have got a good pack. But yeah, so starting with Bonhoeffer, I really obviously it's difficult to say you enjoy a film like that is so heavy and set during a time that is so difficult to digest, no matter how many times we look through it and go over it. In terms of how you were feeling about it, I would love just to know how the film came to you and what drew you to the film in general. Oh, have I frozen?
Your picture did, but your voice is fine.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So I'll repeat the question again and then I'll give a pause and you
I
go
got it.
for it.
I got it. I will help you right there. I'll just go straight into the answer.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
The,
Um,
the film came to me just as a job. Um, and in the beginning, it was titled God's Spy. And I really liked the concept of God's spy because we need God's spies today. You know, and we shot this long before the world was in the turmoil that it's in now. So it was. This is not a knee jerk reaction to what is happening now, but as we can see, it was necessary to have God's spy. I didn't know who Bonhoeffer was until I looked him up, and then I was very impressed. I was aware of who Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was, but I wasn't aware of who his father was. And on researching him, I thought, oh, this is just the voice I want to report. This is the clothes I want to wear. Um, and so I said yes, and here we are having this interview.
Perfect. How was it then connecting to the character of Reverend Powell and researching him and understanding his huge influence on Bonhoeffer?
Well, I was first of all, I all I had to do was just look him up, on online, and starting with his son, who I grew. He was around at a time that I was coming up, and particularly in Harlem at that time. So I was well aware of the energy that the family was putting into the world, and the changes that they were putting into the world. Um, the other half of your question was, what was the other half of your question?
Um, Connecting with the other half of the question was related to kind of understanding his influence on Bonhoeffer and
Ah,
connecting.
yes, yes. I was impressed, really impressed that he should have that type of influence on an individual to encourage them, to inspire them to go to the lengths that Bonhoeffer did, for justice, for what is right, you know. And I wish that there were more people like that, like both of them, to be inspired by somebody like him, like Powell would be wonderful, and to be able to have the platform that Bonhoeffer had, as well, you know. And I have to say that my answers have changed to this question in the past 6 months, you know, and it feels like we need to have a voice like that again. Unfortunately, somebody was saying we don't have leaders like that, you know, and it made me wonder, why do we need leaders? Why do we need an individual when I think that the change that is necessary, which is what I think Clayton Powell was offering Bonhoeffer, is that the individual has got to change if you want to see this world change. It's not a new saying, if you be the change you want to see. And I believe that that's what he was offering Bonhoeffer as well. It's hard for people to understand even more so the concept of God, you know, of God, all around you, whether one believes that this entity or this being is omnipresent, or whether one feels like God is in a specific place but emanates everything that we see here now. Regardless of where you place God, making sure that an individual has some relationship with the concept of God is what's missing today. I think that everyone enjoys breathing in and breathing out. You know, so what are you breathing in, and what are you breathing out, and what kind of intelligence has created this? You didn't do this. And if you enjoy your life, say so. If you enjoy your life, say so, and acknowledge that you did not create this yourself, and that it's necessary to have that kind of gratitude, and that if one spent time in those nether regions of spirituality, um, you wouldn't have time to think about who you were going to hurt next, or whose money you were going to take, or who you were going to put down, or and you wouldn't do what you do to the earth. You are the earth. Anyway, that take those kind of things take me off on a track like that. Sorry.
No, don't apologize at all. I agree with all of that because it is what you're breathing in for, who you're breathing in for, and what
Yeah.
you're breathing out for, and who you're
Yes.
breathing in for, and connecting to a larger being outside of yourself. I 100% connect and understand that. And I love philosophy and ethics. I have a faith myself. And I studied Bonhoeffer at school, and never once was Reverend Powell mentioned. And I think that's just very telling of, I guess, the erasure of a black man, a preacher, a pastor, a man of faith being so fundamental in Bonhoeffer's life. When you were studying the relationship between the two, did you find a lot of things out there about them, or was there quite a lot of blank spaces?
The blank spaces, darling. You know, I have to just gather myself for a second here, because I'm in the throes of looking at a lot more of the Afrocentric history, and the influence that people from the continent had on the world that we still see today, but we don't recognize this because it's been erased. I've just come back from New Mexico in a place called Albuquerque. Now, everyone knows Albuquerque, you know, um, but no one looks at Albuquerque as being something that started in the Moorish times of Spain. That this name should come all the way forward from the 15th century today. And when I look at the architecture of some of the indigenous people, I see the same architecture in West Africa, in Mali, and I'm thinking, this is not coincidence. And so the erasure of people of Africa, from our lives, it puts me in this state, and it leaves people of Eurocentric of Europe descendants completely lost, because when they realize that they have been lied to, what are they going to do? What is that reaction going to be? Right. Um, James Baldwin said that when Black people begin to wake up to who they are, who knows what's going to happen? That could be a violent reaction, That could be a very sorrowful reaction. That could be a reaction of humanity saying, well, hey, now you know, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to move forward in this world? But the influence of Clayton Powell on Bonhoeffer is enormous. Is enormous. We know that Newton had some influence on Einstein. Hello, you know, we so, but to the victor goes the spoils, and so the victor writes history. The sad thing is that the victorious in this instance has allowed their ego to subdue their intelligence, and their humanity, and that's a sad thing. And the end result is, well, the results are not the end result, but the results are where we are today, when we have a man who wants to buy a whole nation, and a man can say things that are absolutely absurd, and it's not just on one side of the ocean, it's actually on both sides of the ocean. It's not just in America. He's mad, but I think there's madness here too. You know, so it's a and having said that, it feels like that's the order of the day, doesn't it? That confusion is the order of the day, and somewhere in there, I think that it does lead us back to, if you are a thinking human being, you might ask yourself for some help. And in asking for help, you recognize that there isn't a human being on this planet who can help you without any divine intervention. I can't put my faith in any human being whatsoever. Yeah.
No. Like I say, amen to that. I'll follow you on that one,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think it is, yeah, without going further into, I guess, and digging too much into the politics and where we are right now, spirits are all the way throughout time,
Yes.
spirit and of all kinds, of
Yes.
evil, good, flow throughout time, and they're often more consistent than we think they are. So yeah, I think Bonhoeffer coming out now, as you said, this is not a knee-jerk reaction. It takes years to make films.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's divine reasons to why things happen when they do, and why
And,
they're ready when they are.
and that's a very good point, because for me, again, this is a testimony to a testament to the divine order of things. We didn't know that we would be where we are today with this message. This message began 3 or 4 years ago in my life, and probably before that in Tom's life, in Todd's life. So these things are not coincidental. They take on a divine order of some sort. And all I can do is wonder at it. All you can do is wonder at it and say, yeah, okay, now I see. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just gotta smile and be like, you know what you're doing.
Yes, yes,
You know what you're doing.
yes.
I'll
And
sit
and
back and happen.
and in that smile, you feel, okay, the world can go completely to hell in a handbasket, but if you know what you know, you can smile all the way while it goes its way. You
Yeah,
know, yeah, that's the joy.
absolutely. Oh, wonderful. I know we've only got a couple minutes left, but I still really want to get on to ask you some more questions about basically your career as a whole. And I know that you have worked across the UK and the US, and the New Black Film Collective, the company that I work for, is obviously a UK-based company, and we are advocating and working with Black creatives. But it would be great to know what the the differences you've seen working between the UK and the US, especially for Black actors in theatre, film, and TV. Have you noticed a change in the landscape throughout your whole career?
Oh yeah,
Um,
yes, for sure. When I came here in '73, there were only two black faces on the hoardings in theater. Um, Larrington Walker was one, and oh gosh, George Harris was the other. They were both either in Hair or in Jesus Christ Superstar. I can't quite remember. Um, and they were very the participation of black actors was sort of underground. There was the Black Theater Co-op at the time back then. Rufus Collins, I think, was the man who was running it, and out of that came some wonderful, wonderful actors. You know, who unfortunately very few of them are still with us now, but they laid the groundwork. They did things like the Desmonds, which is a TV series here, um, and that was also concurrent with what was happening in the States with the rise of more black shows and black TV shows. But the thing that always bothered me, and still bothers me today to a certain degree, is that there was a they had to come in at a point of humor and comedy. There wasn't. George was the first. George Harris was the first black detective. Um, I think that Idris came up with something maybe 10 years ago where he was a black detective. But see, we've forgotten that George started that back in the '80s, you know, and that it's taken this long for Idris to come on back with it again, you know. So it always looks like one is just beginning or just breaking through rather than building on what has been before. That's the same thing that's happened in the States as well. With the blaxploitation films. Blaxploitation films were always just pure entertainment. They were not there for you to be intellectually stimulated. You but things are changing bit by bit. I'm wondering if they're changing because someone feels like it's coming to the end. I pray that that's not the case. I hope that Nollywood, you know, takes the baton and diversifies into more things that are just not Afrocentric, but are more geared towards the diaspora. You know, we are so divided in the diaspora, and that's been by design. And if we recognize that it has been by design, then we can do something about it. It is no longer, aha, you see, you are the son of a slave. Yeah, man, me no slave, It's not, forget that. It's not about that. It's about all of us finding some way to be together. And we cannot do it with outside help. We have to have the dialogue ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So, seeing then how you've seen the landscape change, and obviously you've had this incredible career where you've spanned so many genres and, you know, types of TV and theatre. What do you've said what is going on in the industry, but what for your career do you hope to grow and expand in?
Um, well, I hope that there will be more roles for senior actors like myself that are hopefully going to be harbingers of some wisdom, of some comfort, of some love. You know, we've been through the whole era of pimps and whores and all of that kind of stuff. So I hope that in future we will be more we'll be able to tell more of our own stories, and in telling our stories, to share them not only with the diaspora and Africa, but with the world in a way that serves everybody. in a way that isn't going to be offensive or put any community off. You know, whether it's Asia or whether it's Europe or whether even if it's Africa. We don't want. So I hope that the future allows us to have a more homogenized kind of storytelling, where everybody uh, has has something to say, and also that this whole thing about being colorblind, to hell with that. It's just tell the story as it is. That if it's a character that happens to be in history a man of European extraction, let him be that. Do you know? But make sure that we can tell our own stories where the European mind is not there. Mansa Musa, for example, the richest man in the world, who upset nations because he was giving money away to the point where it upset the economy of small villages, cities, towns on his way to Mecca. That ain't going to happen with somebody else that we know. He ain't giving nothing away. You know, as a matter of fact, I think that person is rather dangerous, but that's a conversation for another day. Um, so, as far as going forward, I hope that we are able to make more films, good stories, stories that serve, first of all, the diaspora, second of all, the rest of the world. But first of all, for now, it needs to serve the diaspora. For now, it does. That does not mean that it has to continue like that for the next 40, 50 years, but we really need to focus on some solidarity and consolidating, our arts and our resources. And I think that film and theater and actors as storytellers can do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much, Clark. I think we've got to wrap it up now.
All right,
Um,
yes,
20 past, but would I be able to ask you to just do, I'm so sorry, Emma, like one quick shout out
sure.
for our TMB Expo and for our company, if that would be okay?
TMB Export. Say that again.
TMB Expo, it's our like convention that we've got that we use. It's going on for 5 days, where we bring in people to speak about training that they've got. We'll work with companies, a lot of the time UK based, but we also want to go out to the US. So it'd be great if
Okay.
you could just shout out and I'll,
TNB Expo.
yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful, beautiful. Okay, all
Yeah.
right, so I'm going to give a
Um,
shout out to TNB. TNB Expo. Is that correct?
yes. Are you ready to? I'll put it in the group chat. If you're out to say, hello, I'm Clarke Peters, stay tuned for events at the New Black Film Collective and TMB Expo. Will that be all right?
If I can remember that.
let me let me put it in the I'll put it in the chat and then read it. There you go.
There you go. Hello, I'm Clarke Peters. Stay tuned for TNB, the New Black Film Collectives Expo. And it left the chat, but that doesn't matter. You know what you need to do. Stay tuned. Oh my.
All right. Thank you so much.